my name is Phil Colcord. I'm president of Fraternal Order of Police, Evergreen Lodge 1 here in Kitsap County, and this is our outreach program. Today I have two gentlemen from Kitsap Recovery here in Kitsap County, and they're here to explain the services they have available to those in need. So let me introduce them to you. First, I have Keith Winfield, and he's the clinical manager of
Kitsap Recovery Center, yes.
Okay, and then I have Curtis Murray, and he's the PIN director.
I'm the Persons in Need Program Coordinator.
Okay, I learned a new word today, PIN.
Right, PIN program.
PIN program.
Keith, can you just briefly tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name's Keith Winfield. I'm the director at Kitsap Recovery Center. I interned in 2008 at Kitsap Recovery Center before moving on to Texas to continue my education, to get my bachelor's in psychology and my master's in social work at Texas State University, before returning back up here and doing a little bit of other things in the social work environment before returning to Kitsap Recovery as their leader in 2019. Mm-hmm.
And you, Curtis, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been working in and around Kitsap County in human services for about 8 years now. I'm a fully licensed substance use dependency professional for the state of Washington, and I've been working for Kitsap Recovery Center for almost a year now, spearheading this new program. So I got my education over there at Olympic College. So, yeah.
How difficult is it? I'm going to kind of throw some out there, and some I'll direct it at, and if I direct it to the wrong person, let me know and I'll get it to the right one. Okay. Try not to let anybody know. Okay. Okay. Keith, how much difficulty is it to get into having help from the?
I mean, and I know, we discussed some of these questions. That's a difficult question to answer, because for some, it may be easy to get into the services, but the quality of services has little to no impact and the follow through. So, but I can tell you, as a behavioral health professional myself, I find it difficult to get into counseling. There's a lot of short staff. There's not a lot of staff, people to fill those positions. And I work with folks in socioeconomically challenged in this field, and they struggle even more. Mm-hmm. There's a disdain sometimes for people, whether it's in hospitals, whether it's in doctors' offices, where we describe addicts as just kind of drug seeking, draining the system and things like that. And so, some of the folks we've seen, they just give up because it's too difficult. Mm-hmm. Navigating insurance, navigating getting on Medicaid, getting prescriptions, getting an appointment, finding quality services within these networks is very difficult, which is one reason why we kind of created this program.
Yeah. In behavioral health services, you have a program to try to navigate for people, right?
We do. So in the last year, in 2023, we started a grant-funded program where I hired a counselor to go out in the field with some of the outreach programs to meet with the homeless. And the goal of this program was to kind of help navigate to get them into services. And so our goal with this program is, when someone asks for help, we're Johnny on the spot, we help, right? So, and it doesn't mean that we're just grabbing people up and putting them in Kitsap Recovery. As a matter of fact, about 70%, 65 to 70% of the folks that we help, we have to take out of county for help. Mm-hmm. But the goal is, when I come and and I say to somebody who's outreach in the homeless encampments, and I say, I've been trying to get into treatment, I've been trying to get help, we just cut that all out and we just say, you ready to go? Let's go. So we'll do assessments in the field, we'll do referrals in the field, we'll sign them up for insurance in the field. There's even some agencies that we partner with that'll do a telehealth in the field to get them onto medical assisted treatment to get them started. So our goal is to really just say yes, to be low barrier, to get folks into care as quickly as possible so they can get the services they need.
I'll tell you who I think it's probably be ecstatic to hear that is the family, friends, and significant others of those that are chemically addicted. Absolutely. Because they're at a loss, and they don't know what to do. And so,
absolutely. And about at least twice a week, maybe actually sometimes quite a bit more, because not only do I serve the clients that we work with, we try to take care of the community. So when I have families that that maybe have private insurance or have different funding, they'll call and ask for help. How to navigate, how do we get folks into treatments? Washington is a difficult state sometimes to get into treatment. They've taken some steps with some new laws to reduce the barriers where I don't have to have an assessment within, before they can enter treatment. We can do the assessment within a 48-hour period and get them into treatment. So there's some things that the legislature has taken step forwards, and the county is really passionate about trying to get help to folks. So they kind of, this idea actually came up just talking with some other staff. What would be common sense, the easiest way to get people into treatment? And we just brainstormed and we came up with this program. And, it was kind of a challenge from our administrator.
The ones in the trenches, so to speak, are the ones that know what is needed. So that's good. Curtis, Persons in Need program. What can you tell me about that and the folks you help and so forth?
So it's a good question. So we, the old model of treatment actually involved people coming to us, saying you got to pick up the phone and ask for help. With the climate's changed significantly with the advent of bringing in a fentanyl and stuff, and people are dying at such an incredible rate. We're watching an entire generation of people being wiped out in front of us, actually, and we just don't have the luxury of waiting for them to get the inspiration to ask for help. But they still need to want the help, ostensibly. So what this program does is we go out and we don't push the program at all. Actually, when we're out in the field and whatnot, and we're dealing with other people, we just, hey, how you doing? We come out with water, Narcan, things like that. And we offer whatever. Do you need help with something today? And we let them know what we're doing, though. And so through building relationships with these people and getting them to trust us, which most of them don't initially, when they do have that aha moment, when that door does crack open and they say, hey, maybe I could use some help, all they got to do is say, hey, instead of picking up the phone, oh, there's so-and-so, I can, hey, I'd like to go to detox today if possible. So.
And I mean, I can tell you, we had a gentleman in the Silverdale area that all we did was every week, our team, they were out there and they would just say hello, let them know that we're here, we're ready to give you services if you need it. And he, decline. About 3 months into it, he says, I need help. Same day, that instant, we helped. We got him into care. We got him off the street, and he had been homeless for a long time. Yeah. So, when that is kind of the goal, is to be extremely responsive. So we try not to make promises that we can't keep, because we're building trust. We do it with compassion. We do it through a cultural lens. And I think that's important. I think being kind to folks is hugely important, and having empathy and showing compassion and kindness actually does a lot to help people to get into services. I've had instances where folks complain about, they were maybe over in Eastern Washington and they were treated poorly, and all we do is we're kind. And sometimes that makes a huge difference.
Kindness goes a long way.
It does go a long way.
So you've alluded to some of them. What are the challenges to the community in development of this, why this program was developed?
I think we have a whole rash of folks that are in encampments and that are living, and they're doing the point in time count now, so we'll get a better picture of that. I think when we were talking to the clinicians at Kitsap Recovery and we were kind of developing this program, one of the things that we were hearing is that the folks were asking for help, but nobody was out there to be able to be responsive. And so they were getting a lot of filling out paperwork for referrals, and maybe the thing is we lose track of these folks, right? And so when they want that help and they're asking for that help, I think it's important, and that's why we decided to start this program, that we jump on it immediately. We don't just give them a piece of paper to say, hey, what are the things you need, housing, treatment, all these kind of things. We'll get back to you. We try to do it right then and there. And of the folks that we ran into, 80% of the time we got them into treatment same day. Not necessarily at Kitsap Recovery. We've driven them over to Eastern Washington. We've driven them to Tacoma, wherever we can find beds. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit, but it's developing partnerships that really makes this program successful.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And on that remark there, your collaboration with different entities to bring this success. Some of them are in town, others are far away. So do you have a navigator in your office or someone that tries to keep track? That's your job, Chris, huh?
So for the last year, I've been the program. Me and Keith work in collaboration, but Keith has a treatment center to run too. And a lot of what I've been doing through the year too is building partnerships with other agencies and other entities, and telling them what I'm doing, and taking referrals. And I keep track of those referrals as well, where they come from and whatnot. The important part of that though too is that as I'm creating these referrals and I'm creating these new avenues for getting help, getting this population help, I'm also training these other entities on how to use those resources as well. So this isn't me going out, because this is what I've always envisioned since I started working in this field, years ago. We should all be working together. Like I don't, this isn't my client.
Yeah.
This is our community.
You don't want to reinvent the wheel that's already been
that's-
invented. You want to improve upon it.
We've built a great relationship with the social workers over at St. Michael's, and as we work through problems, a lot of times they bring me something new, and we all have to work through the mechanics of it. And then if we figure out a solution, I make sure that their social workers know that solution, not so that they won't come back to to us, for help or whatever, but I'm not the person who, I'm not going to hoard resources. I think that's part of what's keeping our population sick, is that people are just too obsessed about keeping it, this is my client and I'm going to help, I don't, one of the things that I respect about Keith and working for him is that he told me from the beginning, he doesn't care how I help people. He just wants me to help people. And so I've been able to get really creative on how to, ethically help people.
Yeah.
I would, and I'm just throwing this out there, but the older generation, like my generation, people older than me, they look at our society and they feel a little guilty that they didn't realize how good they had it back in the 50s, back in the 40s, back in the 60s, as far as the services that you had, and that you didn't have homeless people. If you did, they were called hobos and they traveled the track. But it was nothing like it is now. And every day it seems like things go downhill in a lot of ways. A lot of these old people, resource for you, a lot of these old people have time on their hands, they're bored, and they like to get involved in things. And it might be a good channel to focus on to try to, get more on board on the solution.
So I pass out my cards all the time. I have flyers that I've put up as well, and I'm really trying to get it out there. I call them community referrals when they're from other people, and the word is spreading. Like I had a lady about 5-6 months ago now, but she called me from Arizona about her adult child who lived here. And was having trouble and on the streets and whatnot, and was, I got your name and number from a friend in Kitsap County, and and she called looking for potential resources and help for their loved one who's still here. So, but word's spreading, all over the place, and I'm getting contacted from people pretty regularly outside of our county as well, who want to know what are you guys doing, because they're hearing that it's working. So.
We do, and in fact, just at Kitsap Recovery Center, we have lots of folks, like even over the holidays, that show they know that there's folks that are celebrating the holidays with us. They bring donations and set up gift. That is always welcome within our model. So our model is typically at the Recovery Center, we serve mostly Medicaid. We also take BHASO underinsured or uninsured folks at our center. So we're dealing with folks that are usually displaced socioeconomically. They haven't been able to work, do their drug addiction, and they're on the street. And so we get clothes, donations, any of that stuff is always extremely grateful for these folks. And I can tell you, when we got presents, and we get some folks on Bainbridge Island actually that try to call every year to set up these presents, and they're all good recovery books and things like that. It brings these clients, because they haven't seen that compassion sometimes. Their family's given up on them, their friends have given up on them, and they're perfect strangers saying, hey, here's a hand up. So we've even had some folks that were bringing in their dogs. I was doing a little bit of therapy before COVID with their dogs and things like that. So any creative volunteer ideas, we're always open to that. We have to use the community to really engage our folks.
Hopefully people will see this show and get a hold of you for
Absolutely.
this stuff. So, moving on to, how many folks did your program help in 2023?
So in 2023, after getting a slow start in the very first quarter,
Started March.
Yeah.
We really got started in March.
yeah, because he took time to hire me and onboarding with the county is extensive. So in the last 3 quarters of last year, last 9 months, the bulk of 83 individual people entered into 133 different types of services through the program. I just did reporting today, actually. So of that number, is it 27? Did I say 27? I think I said 27 of the people went from homelessness, living in the tents out there in the encampments, to safe housing, right? Engaged in treatment services, engaged in mat services, engaged in in helping. So the program, at its core, in the foundation of it, was to go out into those encampments and really kind of hyper focus on them, which we all want to see the end to the encampments for various reasons, of course. But I mean, we've been able to reach all kinds of different other people as well. So in the big picture, right, so 83 people over the course of a year, but we're working off a grant that basically just pays for my salary, for 1 year. So that's a really big, that's a lot of benefit for a little cost,
I think it's really important, especially when we get into this 1/10 grant money, that we utilize the funds effectively. They really have to have, I think, concrete outcomes and concrete services that we get. So essentially, for just over right around $130,000 in a grant, we helped over 80 people. That's not a bad ratio, honestly. So we try to be extremely responsible with the money.
Oh, yeah.
We're not wasting it in any way, shape, or form. And even if we got, you have to understand that sometimes some of them may start out, but as they go through treatment or get out of treatment, they don't fall through and they fall back into the relapse trap. Substance abuse is a high rate of relapse.
Yeah, it is, and the average just takes three times before they finally catch on.
So here's the thing: we don't give up.
Yeah.
We actually will go back out in the encampments and say, when you're ready again. We're not a hard sell. We're not trying to force people into anything. What we're trying to do is say, we're here when you're ready.
Yeah.
Tell me about some success stories.
Oh, we've had quite a few. One of my favorite is we had a gentleman who just so happened to be about 7 o'clock in the morning wandering around kind of aimlessly behind, not looking for treatment, just looking for a meeting, which was like 7 hours away. He was a little bit confused, and Curtis was just wandering into work and just said, "Hey, can I help you?" And he just said, "Yeah, I'm looking for this meeting, and I'm kind of hungry." And so what Curtis did is shared his lunch. So we met a need right there. And about 2 weeks later, he knew where to come, and he popped back up and said, I need treatment, I need help. He's been clean 8 months and been housed since that. That was one of my favorite. And I went out, especially early on in the program. I would go out and I ran into a gentleman at the Salvation Army who said he'd been asking for help. He was in a wheelchair. He had some medical condition. He'd been asking for help, and I just said, "Are you ready? Are you ready to go right now?" And he just started crying. And we got him into the van and we got him into treatment that day. I had some folks, because I live in the Kitsap community, that were homeless near where I live, and we were going into outreach with them, and same thing. We ran into him, and he just said, "I've been trying to get help." He was a little bit more complicated, but we got him into treatment that same day as well.
Good.
So that's a big deal, to be responsive and to really be able to help folks when they need it.
Hey, what I'm hearing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the key that is successful is, first, don't be discouraged when it doesn't work.
Yes.
Right.
And, 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 keep applying kindness.
Yeah.
And patience.
Patience. Absolutely.
Because it takes time. And
Yes.
but as long as they got positive,
Yeah.
it'll sink in. It might be not until they get their lowest point, but eventually, hopefully, it'll sink in.
Absolutely.
And as long as you have tenacity and you keep staying there.
Yep. And so we built a relationship with folks that have a hard time building trust because they've been looked down on, scorned upon. Some folks come in, haven't had a shower in 2 weeks. And so what we're really trying to do is when they're ready for help, we help them. And even if they make a mistake, even if they relapse and they come back to us, we're not going to be like, hey, what are you doing? What we're going to do, we're so glad you're here. Yeah. And we're so glad we get the opportunity to do this with you again. Mm-hmm. And I think that when we have those types of responses in behavioral health care, and that's the kind of thing that you're putting out into the world, that you're going to get more folks that are going to come back and say, they treated me with respect, and that's who I'm going to ask for help.
Yeah. Just the demeanor of someone that's on drugs, they don't trust themselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you don't trust yourself, it's very difficult to trust anybody else.
Absolutely. And so, we take on some things that are extremely challenging to both the staff and the crew, but we're willing to do things where other people may say no, and we like to try to say yes. Mm-hmm. So if you have an insurance problem, we're not going to be like, go away, find somebody who will take your insurance. We'll get you on insurance. Yeah. Things like that.
Well, we're getting down on time here, but I want to thank you both for coming here. I think you're doing a wonderful job out there. Keep up the work, and you're welcome on the show anytime. And I hope to have a lot more from your Kitsap recovery on down
Absolutely.
the road. One last thought is future goals.
Yeah, we're growing this program. It was successful this year, so I went back and asked to double it up. So I'm going to have 2 Curtises. I've already gone through the interview process, and I've selected a candidate. We're also partnering with the Kitsap Cares with the Kitsap Cares fire program. So we're gonna embed an SUD with them to help out on the north side even more. So we're going to have 3 folks that are doing this kind of outreach with the goal of getting folks into services and breaking down those barriers.
There's all kinds of tribes out there that have the same type of services, and it's good that you're pulling them together. You got Bremerton has one.
Sure.
Up north in Paulsville they have one, and you're all want the same goal, and so the more you can work together, the better.
We absolutely think that this model is probably the most effective. Not only will we get them into treatment quickly, but these guys will follow them, when we send them to places out of the county to make sure that those agencies are housing them, getting them mental health, getting them to a doctor. And if they're not doing it, which happens, then we're going to make sure that it happens on the back end so that they get we try to do a full
case managed through the whole thing.
Sounds good. Yeah. Sounds real good. I thank you guys, and hopefully the people in the community that have family members or themselves in need, they'll get their phone number off this and contact these people, and they'll be there to help. No matter what the problem is, there's always a solution. You just have to be patient yourself and look to find it. And we have good people that are working on it every day for you and your families and any of those in need. So thank you very much for being here. And that ends our show for today. And thank you to the public for watching, and I hope it is helpful to you.